Hi, how are you? Welcome to OD for You, our ISACA London chapter on demand for you videos. This is part of a number of videos available to you for giving information, knowledge, and also awarding CPEs so that you can collect CPEs in return for answering questions correctly. My name is Darlin Basu, and I am Events Director for ISACA London chapter. You can see my name there and also my email address. So if you have any general comments about OD for you, feel free to get in touch with me. Of course, this session is not about me, but about our topic. And our topic today is an introduction to Cobit 2019, that excellent governance framework from ISACA. Our guest presenter today is Amir Jamil, and I'm going to leave you to Amir to introduce himself and then to give us an introduction to Cobit 2019. Over to you, Amir.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Zalim. I welcome all of you to this COVID 2019 introduction webinar arranged by ISACA London chapter. Uh, just to give you my introduction, a brief introduction. My name is Amir Jamil. As Zalim has already introduced me, I am accredited trainer for COVID 2019, and I have been delivering COVID training for past 10 years since COVID 4.1 was released, and helped many organizations in establishing IT governance to manage business value from IT investments. I will be sharing my first-hand knowledge and experience with you, and you will discover insights you can use right away. So the agenda today will be I will be covering the whole session in three major parts. Uh, the first thing we will go through is understanding basic concepts of governance. And then we will go into the details of what COVID 2019 is. And finally, we will look into the major differences with COVID 5. So that is very important for the existing users, like how COVID-19 has changed from COVID 5. So we will be touching base on like what are the differences, and I will be explaining like how you can continue to use the governance system that you have developed using COVID 5 with COVID 2019. So let's start with our first topic, the basic understanding of the governance. Recent high-profile cases of corporate failure and fraud have brought enterprise governance to the top of the business and political agendas. So increasingly educated and assertive stakeholders are concerned about the sound management of their interests in the organizations. And this has led to the emergence of principles and standards for enterprise governance. So the first question is, what is enterprise governance? So the simplest answer is, the enterprise governance is a set of responsibilities and practices exercised by the board and executive management with the goal of providing strategic direction, ensuring objectives are reached, establishing risks are managed appropriately, and verifying that the enterprise resources are used responsibly. So to further simplify this long definition, governance is all about providing direction and ensuring that the direction has been followed. Okay, so that's how we define governance, enterprise governance. So this slide or this diagram basically represents the framework for enterprise governance. Traditionally, it has focused on two aspects. There are two things you can identify on the top of the diagram or figure: corporate governance and business governance. So corporate governance basically, which covers conformance processes, and corporate governance, which basically business governance, which basically covers processes related to the performance, with the overall objective of managing enterprise key assets. Okay. So now In today's landscape of digital transformation, information and technology have become crucial, okay, in support, sustainability, and growth of the enterprise. A lot of organizations are going through digital transformation. And today, in 21st century, organizations or businesses cannot survive without leveraging technology, without redefining their business models to leverage on technology. So previously, governing boards and senior management could delegate, ignore, or avoid IT related decisions. Today, such attitudes are ill advised. So now we are talking about IT as a key enterprise asset because businesses are heavily leveraging on IT or the technology. Now, GEIT has become an integral part of enterprise governance. So, enterprise governance of information and technology is complex and multifaceted. Members of the governing board and senior management typically need to tailor their IT governance arrangements to their own specific context and needs. So, when they do so, some key points to consider when considering the GEIT systems are: it enables both business and IT people to execute their responsibilities in support of business and IT alignment, and it enables creation of business value from INT enabled business investments. Now, in this context, what is IT governance? IT governance is about creating optimal value from IT by maintaining a balance between realizing benefits and optimizing risk levels and resource use. So IT without governance is reactive, unable to plan, acquire, or develop the correct skill or understand priorities. For instance, without a structured process, all processes are number one priorities. With budgets being flat or minimally increasing, it is difficult to know where to focus. IT governance processes allow IT to understand and manage IT-enabled business changes. The business determines priorities and defines investments, allowing IT to identify their staffing requirements and their investments in the correct skill sets or trainings at the correct time, ensuring value to the organization. So, in a nutshell, IT governance ensures achievement of goals, and while achieving the goals, addressing stakeholder concerns about doing the right things and doing right things in a right manner. So, doing things right. So, this is how we define IT governance. And when we establish IT governance, benefits of information and technology governance, yeah, there is another thing like you may be confused, like I will be using the term IT governance, governance of enterprise IT, or enterprise governance of information and technology. These are the three terms that have been used in Cobit interchangeably, and it basically reflects on the evolution of Cobit for governance perspective over a period of time. I will cover this aspect in a later slides in detail. So the benefits of governance, IT governance specifically, are benefits realization. So what is benefit realization? It consists of creating value for the enterprise through information and technology, maintaining and increasing value derived from existing IT investments, and eliminating IT initiatives and assets that are not creating sufficient value. This is very critical point. And that is why you may have seen different case studies where organizations have suffered a huge losses in major investments in IT because they do not have the governance mechanism in place. They fail to basically decide at a right time when to basically withdraw or discontinue investing in any activity or any project. They keep on investing, and at the end of the day, that project fails and it does not deliver value to the organization. The second benefit is basically risk optimization. It entails addressing the business risk associated with the use, ownership, operations, involvement, influence, and adoption of INT within an enterprise. INT related information and technology related business risk consist of related events and could potentially impact the business. While value delivery focuses on creation of value, risk management focuses on preservation of the value. Then the third benefit is Resource optimization. Resource optimization ensures that the appropriate capabilities are in place to execute the strategic plan, and sufficient, appropriate, and effective resources are provided to achieve the objectives. It is very important to understand that there is a difference between governance and management activities. Cobit framework makes a clear distinction between governance and management practices. The two disciplines encompass different activities, require different organizational structures, and serve different purposes. So governance basically ensures that stakeholder needs are evaluated. It sets direction through prioritization and decision making, and it monitors performance, compliance, and progress against agreed direction and objectives. While management plans, builds, runs, and monitors activities in alignment with the direction set by the governance board or body to achieve the enterprise objectives. So that's how we differentiate between governance and management practices. Now that we have understood the basic concepts of governance, let's dive into our next agenda item, which is Introduction to COVID-19 Framework. So COBIT as an information and technology framework. COBIT is a framework for the governance and management of enterprise information and technology aimed at the whole of enterprise. The differentiation of IT and INT is new in COBIT 2019. As IT used to refer to the organizational department with the main responsibility for technology. Okay, enterprise IT means all the technology and information processing the enterprise put in place to achieve its goals, regardless of where this happens in the enterprise. COVID-19 focuses on the governance of information and technology, regardless whether it is being managed within the technology department, IT department, or outside the technology department. So now, this basically picture of frame diagram on the screen represents the evolution of COBIT over a period of time. It's a historical timeline. Okay, you can easily identify the horizontal bar representing the time in the middle of the diagram, and it is dividing the diagram into two halves. The upper portion records the COBIT development over time, and the lower portion records major events and technological development that shaped the COBIT over time. So now, if we look at the timeline, in 1996, ISACA released first edition of COBIT framework. Okay, and after that, in 1998, the second edition of COBIT framework was released, and it added control to its framework. And then in 2000, the third edition of COBIT with new management guidelines was published. So over a period of time, the components have been added gradually into the COBIT framework. First, in second version, the controls were added, and then in the next version, third version, the management guidelines were published. Okay. Then in 2003, ISACA created an online version of the third edition of the COBIT. So now in 2003, the COBIT was available online through a portal where you can filter the content, you can tailor your governance system using the online facilities available on the online portal. The pupil, the practitioners can basically share their experiences, ask questions, and interact with each other. That was the purpose of COBIT Online. Then in 2005, COBIT 4 becomes the fourth edition in the COBIT series of releases. And then immediately afterwards, in 2007, COBIT upgrade to version 4 was available. It was version 4.1. This was majorly because they did not call it 5 at that moment, because there was a minor change in the content of the COBIT 4. And the major difference between 4 and 4.1 was it was aligned with SOX and other regulations related to enterprise governance. And this is the version where the concept of governance was introduced in COBIT. And then in 2012, COBIT 5 was released. And basically, between 2007 and 2012, there were two other publications that were published, which are not visible on this diagram, which was VAL IT, like the framework for ensuring value from IT, and Risk IT, a framework that was published to manage risks related to IT or associated with IT. So this is what has basically merged into Cobit 5 version. When they released Cobit 5, Val IT, Risk IT, and Cobit 4.1, they all three frameworks or documents were merged and presented as Cobit 5. And then we have Cobit 2019 in 2008. It was released late 2018. I think it was November when Cobit 2019 was published, and it is again a very major change in the Cobit. So let's talk about the drivers behind Cobit update. These are the four major drivers basically for that basically shaped the Cobit 2019, the current version of the Cobit. The first one was like optimizing INT governance. Second was staying relevant in a change environment, building on Cobit strengths and identifying opportunities, and then addressing Cobit 5 limitations. So let's have a look into these drivers one by one. Optimizing INT governance. So basically, again, as I explained previously, IT used to refer to the organizational department with main responsibility for technology. And when it was, I would say, realized by the practitioners that positioning governance of enterprise IT was very difficult because it was giving, and the framework was given an impression that it is IT governance means departments governance. So it was very difficult, and practitioners were facing a difficult time to position it to the right audience, which is basically the executive management and the board. And there is a need to focus on the governance of INT throughout the enterprise. So building, that's why basically there was a need to basically focus on governance and information and technology throughout the enterprise and position it at the right place. Then staying relevant in a change environment. Yes, the environment was changing. Cobit 5 was published in 2012, making it almost 7 years old at that time. New technology and business trends in the use of IT, like digitization, have not been incorporated into Cobit, requiring realignment. So that's where they feel that there is a need to basically change or upgrade the framework. Then the third driver was building on Cobit strengths and identifying opportunities. So Cobit has carrying strengths, like Cobit is a unique overarching IT governance framework, and we have been seeing it since 4.1 version, that Cobit basically provides an overarching governance framework that basically has a capability to integrate the other relevant frameworks. Like if we can see that there are different verticals within the IT discipline, like for example, information security, then software development, quality management, project management. These you can consider as the verticals of IT department or IT function. And Cobit basically provides an overarching framework where Cobit integrates all these activities. Without the governance overarching framework, these disciplines or these practices remains in silos, and they fail to basically talk to each other, and which basically hurts the organization's performance. So Cobit provides an overarching framework, and the way I describe it is like basically Cobit defines what needs to be done, rather going into the how, and then the vertical frameworks define how it should be achieved in their respective disciplines. Like for example, Cobit can define you like what is required from information security in an organization. And when you pick up 27001 as a vertical of dedicated for information security, tells you how to establish information security in an organization. So at the governance layer, the stakeholders or the practitioners should not be concerned about how the goals will be achieved. They are responsible to define the goals, what is required in the organization. Okay, so that has been Cobit's strength. And what were the opportunities? The current target audience for Cobit is still very much IT and assurance oriented. It like still till Cobit 5 version, Cobit has been used by IT and assurance oriented people. It has not been used by the executive management or the business side, there is an opportunity to rediscover or relaunch some of the Cobit hidden gems, and more perspective implementation guidance such as incorporating specific design factors need to be incorporated. Then addressing Cobit 5 limitations. Yes, Cobit 5 users find it hard to locate relevant content for their needs, perceived as complex and challenging to apply in practice. The enabler model is incomplete in terms of development and guidance, and thus often ignored. A challenging process capability model and general lack of support of performance management for other enablers in Cobit 5 was a challenge. The perceived reputation of IT governance itself as an inhibitor of change and administrative overhead, not per se a Cobit weakness, but an IT governance problem at a large. So that's why there is a need to basically upgrade the version. Now, setting the right expectations from Cobit. So we should be very clear what Cobit is and what Cobit is not. Cobit is a framework for the governance and management of enterprise IT. Cobit defines the components to build and sustain a governance system. Cobit defines the design factors that should be considered by enterprise to build a best fit governance system for the organization. Cobit is flexible and allows guidance on new topics to be added. Okay, now we are talking about 2019. So these are the new features that are available in 2019 version. What Cobit is not? Cobit is not a full description of whole IT environment of an enterprise. Cobit is not a framework to organize business processes. Cobit is not an IT technical framework to manage all technology. And Cobit does not make or prescribe any IT related decisions. So basically, Cobit is not a solution for your problems. Based on Cobit guidance and framework, you can build a system to solve your problems related to IT governance. Now, this may looks like a very complex diagram, but it is an overview of Cobit 2019. Let me walk you through this diagram piece by piece. So basically, when COVID-19 was developed, inputs to COVID-19 was Cobit 5, standards and frameworks regulations, and then community contribution. People who have been using Cobit, they contributed in the development of COVID-19. They provided their insights and inputs to basically enhance and upgrade Cobit. Then we have COVID-19, which is Cobit core process model, which it's called reference model for governance and management objectives. I will explain it later, but now the diagram or the outlook of this Cobit core looks similar to Cobit 5, but it has some change component in it as well. Okay. Like for example, previously we have 34 processes, 36 processes. Now we have 40 processes, or now we are calling it governance and management objectives in this core. That is the change. And each of these governance and management objectives is related to one process. In 2019, we have stopped calling processes because initially in Cobit 5, we used to call all these white boxes within this core a process, Cobit process. But now in 2019, we are calling it governance and management objectives. We will go into the details of this in a later slides. Then we have Cobit core publications. We have Cobit 2019 framework, introduction and methodology. Then we have COVID-19 framework, governance and management objectives. We have Cobit 2019 design guide and toolkit. And then we have COVID-19 implementation guide as well. Okay. Then we have design factor. This is a new basically feature in Cobit 2019 where Cobit has provided a design factor, like there are multiple 11 design factors that should be considered while you are designing a governance system for your organization. Like what is enterprise strategy, what is enterprise goal, enterprise size, role of IT, sourcing model for IT. So there is a list of 11 factors that should be considered at the time of designing a governance system for an organization. Then we have focus areas. So it has been very clear since COVID 4.1 days that governance system can be tailored to suit any specific need. But what could be the approaches? It was not clear. So now in COVID 2019, COVID has provided example of focus areas, like what could be a focus area for a governance system for an organization. Like for example, if it's a small and medium enterprise, what could be the focus? What should the governance system cover? They have given you a recipe, I would say. If your focus in your organization is to basically govern security, you can design your governance system for security as a focus area. Then risk could be one thing, and DevOps could also be the option. So these are the four different focus areas that have been introduced at the time of COVID 2019 publication, and with the indication that ISACA keeps on enhancing and updating these focus areas without changing the core COVID framework. So that's how it makes it integratable and what you can say open-ended to basically keep on ending different perspectives throughout the time. Then we can have a tailored enterprise governance system for information and technology. Like we can tailor based on the design factors using the focus area, like what the organization wants to achieve through governance system. Um, the what you can say the tailored enterprise governance system for the organization can be developed. So this is how COVID 2019 gives you a flexibility and control over designing a governance system for your organization. So that's how we have basically covered the overview, high level overview of COVID 2019. Now we will walk through the major differences with COVID 5, how COVID 19 is different than COVID 2005. So if you observe these gray boxes on this slide, like we have COVID framework, we have COVID enabling processes, and we have COVID implementation guidelines. So these were the publications available in COVID 5. And in the middle, these color boxes or arrows or chevrons are basically representing the COVID product architecture. We have COVID-19 product architecture. We have COVID-19 framework, which basically COVID introduction and methodology. We have COVID-19 framework, COVID governance and management objective. We have design guide, and we have implementation guide. So basically, three of the publications are similar to COVID 5. In addition, we have now design guide, which was missing in the COVID 5, and that's what made it what you can say complex or difficult for the people to basically understand how to design a governance system for an organization. With the design guide, you can easily develop your tailored governance system for your enterprise. And then we have these four areas as well, which are basically focus areas. While you are designing, you will be leveraging on the information that is available through focus areas to basically tailor your governance system for any specific purpose or reason. So, and throughout this alignment, we have modified COVID principles. Like COVID principles have been modified. There were principles in COVID 5 as well. In 2019, the principles have been changed. Now we are calling governance components. Initially, we were calling it enablers in COVID 5. Now we are calling it governance components. In 2019, focus areas are new. Design factor is new. Then now we have 40 governance and management objectives. Previously, there were 34 or 36 processes that we used to call. Now we call it governance and management objectives, and it has been increased to 40 now. Goals cascade has also been enhanced and updated. Updated performance management now we have available. We have COVID business case also available, guidance on developing a business case for governance and governance system in an organization. And new updated publications are also available. So things that have been removed, the generic enabler model has been removed from the framework. Okay. Similar structures will still be part of COVID conceptual model, but will remain hidden and hence make COVID look less complex. So this is an effort to make COVID less complex. The detailed enabler guidance has also been removed. Further simplifying Cobit process goals have been removed. This role is taken over by the process practice statements. Now the process goals have been replaced by practices or practice statements. The Cobit 5 PAM and the ISO 15504 model, which was used to basically process capability assessment model, have been replaced by CMMI inspired capability model. And this to me, like my personal opinion is like this has created a bit of confusion as well, because in Cobit 4.1 CMMI inspired capability model was available in Cobit 4.1. In Cobit 5, ISACA came up with a very strong justification why they are going for 15,504 as a replacement for CMMI based. And they have provided a very reasonable and very logical justifications for using this. And then, to the surprise of the practitioners, now they have gone back to CMMI, which has created a slight confusion. But now they have decided to go with CMMI based capability model for measuring the capability of governance system as a whole. There is a note here, like for those who want to keep using that model, the Cobit 5 PAM model can do so, but there is no separate PAM publication provided with Cobit 2019. You can use the same publication to basically assess your performance for the governance system, which is based or designed using Cobit 5. Okay. So now the next thing is basically things renamed or changed. So there are 4 elements that have been renamed or changed. Enablers have been renamed as components of the governance system, better expressing what they are. The Cobit principles for governance system and for governance framework have been renamed and changed. IT related goals renamed as alignment goals, and the structure of the process itself, process guidance, now structured as governance and management objectives, with process guidance being only part of it and complemented with other governance components. So now, things that are updated or refreshed. The first thing is the goals cascade has been updated. There were 17 enterprise and 17 alignment goals at that time. They were called process goals, IT related goals. Now we are calling it alignment goals. Now we have 13 for each of them. So this is a change. So the goal statements have been reviewed and revised. Some of them have been merged. So now we have a list of 13 goals for enterprise objectives and 13 goals for alignment, IT alignment with the enterprise. Then process related guidance, again practices and activities for most processes have been updated. Then standards, cross-referencing, incorporating emerging standards. So it was already there in Cobit 5 as well, but now since it was an obsolete version and a lot of frameworks or standards have been emerged since Cobit 5 was released, so new standards have also been incorporated and cross-referencing has been provided. And again, how we can use this cross-referencing. Again, we will use the same principle that I have told you, like while designing a governance system for the enterprise, you should limit yourself to define what is required. And when it comes to how it should be achieved, the relevant references or the frameworks or the standard that are available for that particular discipline should be referenced. So Cobit provide this reference available. Just for an example, like Cobit for information security, ISO 27001 has been what you can say updated in 2013. So now Cobit 19, when it comes to information security, Cobit 19 refer to ISO 27001 2013 version. Okay. So similarly, a lot of other frameworks have been introduced, which have been published recently at the time of Cobit 19 publication. Then Cobit implementation guide has been updated to work in conjunction with the design guide. So design guide is a new element in Cobit 2019 publication. So now implementation guide has been updated to basically incorporate and to leverage on design guide as well. Cobit reference model now contains 40 governance and management objectives, which were initially called processes in Cobit 5. There were 37. Now we have 40 uh, processes or governance and management objectives. And then, of course, INT related risk scenarios have also been updated in Cobit 2019 version. So now, things that are changed or that are new, sorry. Governance and management objectives concept is basically new. So three additional management objectives like APO Fund 4, manage data, BAI 11, manage projects, MEA 04, manage assurance. These are the three new for the Cobit 5 versions processes, and for the Cobit 2009 version management, governance and management objectives that have been added to the governance and management objective or the core model. Then focus area concept is new, making Cobit flexible and more practical. The design factor concept allowing to build better tailored governance system, process capability assessment based on the CMI approach, process activities assigned a capability label. Now for each activity, Cobit has assigned the capability label. Previously for the at the process level or at the governance and management objective level, the capability labels were assigned. Now, in 2019, Cobit has assigned capability levels at the level of each activity within the process or within the governance and management objective. And this is basically new. COVID-19 guide, design guide is new. So these are the new features that have been added to the Cobit framework. So now, with this information, I conclude the introduction of Cobit 2019. I have covered main features of Cobit 2019 and major differences with Cobit 5. So if you want to solve any INT governance or management related issues in your organization, and if you have been wondering about where to look in the Cobit 2019 publication to meet your specific needs, feel free to send your questions and queries to me using the email address mentioned on the slide. I will get back to you in approximately week's time. Thank you for attending this webinar, this presentation, and that's it from me now. Cheers.
Amir, thank you very much for that super session. Now you've put the question. Do you have any questions? In fact, I have a number of questions. May I put them to you now?
Yeah, please.
Great. Okay. The questions that I've got here are grouped into different types. The first is about transitioning old versions to COVID 2019 or from other frameworks to 2019. Firstly, I have a question here. My organization used Cobit 4.1, but not Cobit 5. How does Cobit 2019 relate to 4.1, or for that matter, 4.2, 4.3, which I've also heard?
Okay. So, first of all, to answer your question regarding the transitioning from old version to the new version, okay, the old version may be 4.1 or 5.0. So first we need to understand like what Cobit is. Basically, Cobit is a framework. It is not a standard. So when we say so, like it is not a standard, means you do not need to comply with Cobit, okay? Because usually you comply with standards and you implement each and every requirement listed in the standard to comply with the standard. Cobit is a framework that basically helps you to tailor your governance system according to your organization needs. So I have not seen any organization, and it is not logical to claim that you are complying 100% with Cobit, because that statement is not true. Okay. So now, if your organization has already developed a governance system for their organization to solve governance and management issues related to information and technology, whether you have used Cobit 4.1 or Cobit 5.0 as a reference, Now your reference point is the tailor-made governance system that you have made for your organization, and that is basically suitable for your needs now. So regardless, you have developed this system for from based on COVID 4.1 guidelines or 5 or 2019. Your system is satisfying your requirement. So there is no urgent need to transition to the new version. That's the straightforward answer. Okay. Now, as long as your governance system is in place, it will never be relevant and valid for a long period of time because business is changing, stakeholder requirements are changing, and like logically or the best practice is like after 1 year you will revisit your governance system and you will see whether it is still relevant or not. And when you find that your governance system is not relevant to your organization needs anymore, you need to go into the revision of your tailor made governance system. At that point of time, you will basically decide whether you still want to leverage on the previous version of COVID, which may still be relevant for your organization, or it is an opportunity for you to basically refer to the latest version that is available to basically enhance your governance system that you have already developed a couple of time years ago or maybe months ago to satisfy your requirements. So from the governance perspective, complying or transitioning from previous version to new version is not relevant. So that's how we see. And when Isaka published 5.0, like 7 years ago, now 8 years ago, they made it very clear that users do not need to move on to 5.0 immediately. And this statement is still true for 2019, that people who have developed their governance system based on 5.0 or even 4.1, because I have seen many organizations that are still using governance system that was built on 4.1 guidelines. So there is no need to transition immediately. Yep.
Okay, Mia, thank you for that. Now, some questions relating to Val IT and Risk IT.
Mhm.
Quite simply, how does COVID 2019 relate to Risk IT and to Val IT? Val IT being the framework for enterprise value governance of IT.
Mhm. Yeah. So basically, again, we need to go back to version 5.0 because Well IT framework and Risk IT framework were developed at the time of 4.1 to basically complement Cobit 4.1 version. So because the value delivery was not clear in 4.1 framework. Similarly, risk management was not prominent and was not sufficient in 4.1. That's why Kisaka published Val IT and Risk IT to complement 4.1. Now, at the time of 5.0 development and release, all these three frameworks, COVID 4.1, Well IT, and Risk IT, were merged, and basically the COVID structure itself, the framework structure, was enhanced to incorporate Well IT and Risk IT into COVID 5. So at that time, it was embedded into the framework itself. It is no more available as an extension of COVID. Okay, and similarly, after 7 years, when COVID 19 was released, so again we are transitioning from or enhancing COVID 5.0 version, so it is still embedded. And now it is very evident that value delivery is one of the principles of governance in COVID 19. So Well IT has been incorporated. You cannot identify in COVID 19 that okay, this piece of information, whether you call it a governance management objective or it is a principle or it's any particular element that specifically addresses value delivery. No, the complete governance framework is basically uh, structured in a way to deliver value to the stakeholders. So this is the primary objective of a governance system now. Okay. Similarly, risk management is again is one of the main what you can say objectives of governance system, because when we define objectives of governance system, it's basically benefits realization, risk optimization, and resource optimization. So you will find well IT and risk IT embedded in 2019. Now, from the perspective of again 4.1 users who are still using 4.1 or who have developed their governance system based on COVID 4.1, and they have leveraged on well IT and risk IT to incorporate value delivery and risk IT. Now it has been part of their governance system that they have developed based on 4.1. When they go into enhancing this governance system, they can find relevant information available in 2019 that will basically enhance their governance system.
Amir, that's great. Great answer. Okay. Thirdly, cybersecurity. How about Cobit 2019 for cybersecurity management? For example, can it help us to improve our cybersecurity culture? How does it relate to the NIST cybersecurity framework as well? Can it help us to achieve ISO 27001 compliance? Are these big tasks for COVID 2019 or part of the process of applying it?
Okay. So basically, the answer to this question is twofold. First of all, we need to understand what is governance and what is management. As I have explained earlier in my slide, that governance is basically defining what is required to satisfy requirements. Okay. When we say that governance is about providing direction, means you need to define what is requirement. And then based on this direction, when we set through objectives and goals, the what element is defined, and at the management layer, the relevant stake, what you can say, the relevant process owners or area owners or managers, they basically utilize different standards and frameworks to define how it should be achieved. Okay. So COVID stands at that layer. So if we are talking about security, whether it is cyber security or information security in general, COVID can help you to define what should be the security posture in an organization from the stakeholders of business perspective. And this is a very critical what you can say element, because I have been part of information and cybersecurity implementation for a long time, and this is the most critical or crucial point where we are required by the standard to define information security policy for the organization, where we document business requirement for information security. And when the consultants ask organization what the information security should be in for the business do not have any answer. Okay. And in the absence of this answer, where business does not have the clarity of what the security should be, it is left open ended, and based on the implementers past experience, this policy is designed. Like if I am a consultant implementing the policy, and if I have experience of implementing information security in, for example, bank or financial sector, and now I am implementing security in, for example, manufacturing sector. So I will use my past experience, like how I have defined my security policy or objectives for security in the previous organization, and I will document this policy. So now I am using the objectives or the security profile or requirement that were what you can say suitable for a financial sector organization, and now I am implementing it and forcing it to manufacturing sector. And since business do not have the clarity like what security should look like, they will accept it, and that's why organization has started to struggle with managing these uh, critical elements of the what you can say organization information security and cyber security. Now, when we refer to Cobit, we have understood very clearly that Cobit is a business framework for management of IT, governance and management of IT. So there are no technical jargons in Cobit. Business can easily refer to Cobit, and they can define from security perspective the what element, like what security should look like in their organization. Okay. So that's how Cobit can complement information security implementation in any organization, whether it is a NIST cybersecurity framework or it is a 27001, because Cobit is defining the what element. And then it is up to the management layer, information security officer, to select any relevant standard or framework to define how security should be managed in their organization. And in fact, Cobit has published a guideline for it's called COVID 2000 implementing NIST cybersecurity framework using COVID-19. So that application is already available, just to provide a reference like how security should be handled utilizing COVID. But again, keep in mind the objective will always be when you are using COVID that you are defining what you are not going to define how security should be managed. That will be dealt at the management layer with relevant standards.
Okay, yeah, that's good too. Um, Now, about data and information governance. Can COVID 2019 help us to improve our corporate data governance to meet compliance and regulatory needs? Can we use it to address data governance, data management, data quality, and improved management information?
Yes. The thing is like when COVID 4.1 was released after 4.0, this was the main critical element that was incorporated into the COVID framework to ensure compliance with the regulatory frameworks which are available for corporate governance like SOX and Basel II and King 3. I think it was the King 2 or King 3 was the version available that was relevant for corporate governance in South Africa. So COVID 4.1 was enhanced to basically ensure Cobit has element to ensure compliance with available regulatory requirements. And information was the main element because you see, like when we talk about information technology, technology is one part that basically manipulates and manages the information. But at the end, the essence is information. Management and the organization needs information to make decisions. So the whole governance concept is about providing the relevant and timely and quality information to the management to make informed decisions. COVID has element like for 2019, the specific guideline has not been published as yet, but for COVID 5, there was a publication, dedicated publication available, which was called COVID 5 Enabling Information, that deals with information governance, the concept of governing data and information within an organization from privacy and from security perspective was clearly outlined there. So again, for 2019, the publication is not published as yet, dedicated guideline, but we can still leverage on the outline that is defined in COVID 5 to tailor information governance or data governance system or like in an organization.
Okay, well, you mentioned about the implementation guide. What about for COVID 5, there were guides for various things such as risk, assurance, governance, security. Will these exist for COVID 2019 or do they exist already?
Yes, all these things are already embedded in value delivery, risk management, resource optimization is the core of governance, and it is embedded in 2019. And you establish IT governance to basically again we have to go back to the same like what is the objective, ultimate objective of governance. The objective of governance is to provide value to the stakeholders. Very straightforward, simple, one statement definition of governance. And how do you ensure value delivery? By ensuring benefit realization. Again, we are saying benefit realization. Why we are saying? Because you see, like we are not saying from the governance platform that IT departments are not delivering value to the business. They are working, they are satisfying, they are running the show, they are maintaining the systems. It's not that they are not doing anything at all. The thing is, since it is not aligned with the business, so business does not have the realization like what benefits they are getting from the IT department. So by aligning IT with business, like it will be a very long discussion like how you align IT with business, but we just use this caption We will explain it in our later webinars, like how to align IT with business. But when you align IT with business, you basically make it happen. Like business started realizing like what value they are getting from IT, so they will start getting the value. Similarly, if you are getting, if the objectives are being achieved, but the risks are not addressed in achieving the objectives, again the value proposition go out of sync. So you need to maintain risk within a acceptable range. That is the second requirement to deliver value. And if you are realizing the benefits and the risks are also managed within the limits, but resources are not used responsibly, okay. There could be different situations or scenarios of misuse of resources, but if the resource utilization is not optimized, again the value will not be delivered, the value proposition will go out of sync. So it is embedded within the concept of governance, and through this concept COVID 5 and COVID 19 are addressing this issue.
Excellent. Well, let's finish off with a question about training, certification, and publications relating
Mhm.
to COVID 2019. Are training courses available yet for COVID 2019?
Yes.
Publications available yet? Yeah?
Yeah. So basically, for COVID 19, there are two trainings available as trainings and certifications available as of now. COVID Foundation, COVID 19 Foundation, and COVID Design and Implementation. So these are the two trainings. Previously, it was for COVID 5, like it was only COVID implementation. But since the design factor have been added as a new element in COVID 19, so the certification and training becomes COVID design and implementation. So these two trainings and certifications are available as of now. And maybe at the later stage, there will be some assessor upgrade, because COVID assessor was available for 5. It is not available for 19 as of now. So these are the two trainings and certifications available. For the COVID Foundation, you do not need to attend any, what you can say, training to sit for the exam, to attempt an exam. You can prepare yourself and you can attempt COVID Foundation exam. But for the COVID design and implementation, there are prerequisites where you have to attend the trainings.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Amir, you've answered all of my questions. If you, watching this video, have other questions for Amir, do reach back to his email address and email those questions directly to him. Amir Jamil, I think that has been an excellent introduction to COVID 2019, and I would like to thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Great. Now, thank you for watching this video, and I would also like to add thanks to Kamal Khan, the Communications Director of ISACA London chapter, who's acted as the technical controller for this video. This has been one of the videos in OD for you, that's on demand for you. I look forward to seeing you again on another OD for you video. Thank you and goodbye.